Welcome to Distracted, the podcast with Angela Lockwood, the place where you will find practical brain-boosting strategies, expert insights, and real-life stories to help busy brains thrive in the age of distraction. Let's go. Welcome to Distracted, everyone. I'm Angela Lockwood, and today I'm joined by Kel Quarrell. Now, Kel and I move in many business circles together, and I just love the way that Kel approaches business and the way that she supports business owners. And there's something really unique which I want to touch on with Kel in our conversation today, and that's around the word of alignment. And before, some people might go, "Oh my gosh, it's going to be a real woo-woo conversation today." It's really not. And Kel's going to have a chat to us a little bit around what alignment means for your business, but how that can keep you focused on doing the really important things in your work. So, Kel, welcome to Distracted.
Thank you for having me, and I'm very happy and excited to be here.
I just always love your energy, Kel. It's so amazing. And I think, that's the one thing is time, energy, and focus are three really important things that, we do run out of. And one of the things I know in your Bold Aligned membership or Bold Aligned business programs that you run is small business owners. You must hear frustrations all the time. And can you give us a little bit of an insight? Because I want to know them. What are business owners frustrated about, particularly the ones that are working on their own?
So probably the biggest frustration is not knowing what to do first and where to spend their time, because I'm sure you can agree, and I do agree, is that there is always something to be done in business. And when you are a team of one, then all of those tasks lay on your own shoulders. So for most business owners, it's about how do I determine what is the highest priority and where do I spend my time? What do I do first? And how do I manage that amongst all of the other things that I have to do in my life?
Well, and that's why I wanted you on here, Kel, because obviously being a podcast called Distracted is we can be distracted by so many different things in our work. How do we actually determine what's the most important thing?
For me, it's about stripping it right back and going to the very, very beginning of what is it that you are actually looking to achieve through having a business. And I think when a lot of people get into business, it's from a passion of perhaps, doing something in their life. I can recall when I first did my beauty therapy, I wanted to be a beauty therapist and have my own business. So that is what I did. And so they lead with that passion. And then when they start to understand everything that needs to be done in a business, that passion can really sort of start to drop away. And then it's about looking at what do I want this business to give me and my life? And based on those goals, based on your values, based on the highest priorities you have in your life at that time, it's about creating a business and designing that business to provide that for you. And that's not always as easy as it sounds.
I hear so many times health professionals and people in service industries say, all I want to do is make a difference. And what's your input or your advice when you hear somebody say, all I want to do is make a difference?
My first thing would be is being really clear about what making a difference is to them. Sometimes I feel like we can fall into this little habit around, I don't want to lead with what it is that I truly want for me and what it is that you want to create from your business. So I'll lead with the generalized term of I want to have an impact. I want to help people. I want to make a difference. But what does that truly mean? Once you're clear on that, it's like through what avenues, what is it that you want to deliver to actually make a difference? Because that's going to look different for everyone.
It's one of the things I love, even just listening to you speak then, is I've heard you speak a lot of times on your masterclasses and on interviews on other podcasts. There's something about your questioning style that is always so clear and so insightful. I'd love, where does that come from? Because asking questions to get to the root of asking some of those big or having big reflective times for people can be tricky. So how do you know the right questions to ask to elicit some of those responses?
Well, that is a very good question. So what I would say first and foremost is I've got nearly close to 10 years experience coaching women. So through my other company, She Can, we've ran live events for women for well over 8 years. And I guess being able to facilitate space for women to self-learn and self-discover. And it is about asking the right questions. What I also find is that it is something, and this may sound woo to some people, but it is just intuitive. I'm not thinking of the next question I'm going to ask. I'm just responding. And often I'll feel like the question is actually not mine. It just comes to me and that's what I ask. But I feel like as a coach or a mentor or even as a business strategist, we can be very quick to put forward what we believe the answer is. However, that would be my answer. That wouldn't be the person that I'm working with's answer. And so it's really important that with what I do, I understand what is it for you or what is it for the client that I'm working with, so that we can then create a strategy and an action plan that's going to align with what it is that they really want.
That really hit me then because I've had so many business coaches in the past that ask you a question and then decide they want to answer it for you. And you're like, I'm
Yes.
not actually sure. And even thinking about that, Kellen, reflecting on that is how many times I've probably taken the next step based on what their thoughts were for me. And thinking about that, I'm like, that's really powerful, particularly if you are somebody who does. And I love that you said the team of one, because it is. You have to be a support crew. You have to be everything to yourself in moments if you don't have a team around you. But often, how many times do we respond to what someone else thinks we should do in our business? And some of those times there, I guess they do have insight. They can see things that we can't see. But what I'm hearing you say is that when you can actually reflect and go from what's important to you, then that's when you know what the next best step is.
Absolutely. And then you get to create your strategy and your action steps from that point. And so that then it's always easier. The journey is always a little bit easier because you know where we're starting from and also where we're heading to. And I can always put forward ideas of different strategies, after working with so many people, you do collect different ideas along the way. However, it is ultimately your decision or my client's decision whether or not that feels good to them and whether or not that is the way that they want to do business. Because if it's not, then they're going to very quickly end up in frustration, overwhelm, procrastination. And we know that when we get into those things, we actually then do nothing.
Mm. And is that where alignment comes into the conversation? Where if you're making decisions based on how you're going to use your time, based on what someone else thinks, or just a to-do list, is that where alignment sort of comes into the conversation? And can you unpack what that means a little bit more for business owners?
Yeah, so I think that, as I was saying before, often people will get into business just purely out of passion. They have, they really love what they do and they think, I'm going to be able to monetize this. I'm going to have great impact. I want to be able to help people. And so I'm going to create a business. And so once they get into business and they really understand how much needs to be done and what the pressures can be and the roller coaster ride it can be, we then really need to go and take a breath and say, well, what is it that I really want out of life? What are my highest priorities? What are my core values? And then how do I create a business that is in alignment with those things? And I go back to when I first started out in business over 18 years ago. I was recently married, started my own Alabache franchise. I was a newly graduated beauty therapist. I had, really passionate. But, within 5 years, I'd become a mum of two girls, and everything in my life, of course, becoming a mum changed. But what I realized was the way that I was doing business didn't. And so I became very quickly tired, overwhelmed, frustrated, I would say bitter. And by the time I got to the point where I decided to close the doors on that business, I was almost broken. And so for me, it's about people getting really consciously aware of, is the business that they've created the business that they really want?
Hmm. Yeah, wow. See, it's again asking those really important, insightful questions. Because do you find that a lot of your clients don't take the time, or they haven't yet until they come in contact with you to reflect on some of those bigger questions? Or is it all about the what I've got to do and how I've got to do this and who I've got to reach out to, and don't ask themselves questions like that?
I think it's very much so, and I think we're hopefully coming out of the hustle culture, but has been this culture of go, 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 do, 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 do. Every day's got to be, all of the things. And often people don't just step out of their business or out of their life and just take a moment and reflect on, are the things that I'm doing each and every day the things that I want to be doing? And if they're not, how can I pivot? What changes can I make? And really to have a look at, what am I not happy with? What are the things that if I could, would I outsource? Is my business actually going in the direction that I really want it to? Am I working with the clients that I want to work with? All of these things, because when we first get into business, that may have been true. But as our seasons of life change and our priorities change and our values change, then the way that we do business needs to change as well.
So that's such a beautiful term you just used, the seasons of life. And can you talk to us a little bit about seasons and because I've heard you speak about that before. How does that apply to business? So seasons feels very weather based,
Yes.
obviously. In your what does that mean for business?
Well, I work predominantly with women. Certainly, Boulderline Business, my membership group, is for women only. And I think as a woman, you can very clearly identify different seasons that we have in life. And for me, seasons is about what are our priorities in that given season. So obviously, if you become a mum, then the season when your children are young and literally you are their lifeline, you are the person there to keep them alive, then that's a very different season to when you're navigating those children as teenagers. And then it's a very different season when they leave and you're an empty nester, and, the season then changes. And we all have 24 hours in a day, but we don't all have the ability to spend that 24 hours a day the same way. And that's kind of what I mean with seasons, is that I always say we need to have a look at, where do we get the biggest return on our investment based on our time? And so what are the things that we get to do in that will give us the biggest return in our business? Because based on the season of life we're in, the amount of time we get to spend in our business may be very different depending on what's going on around us.
So for context, you're in the season of teenagehood for your daughters. And I'd love to know, what are some of the things that you do in your day to help you stay focused and aligned to your business?
For me, the biggest thing is about setting my day up the right way. So for me, it's movement. I love the book Atomic Habits by James Clear and habit stacking. And so I've always been someone that has moved my body more so for my mental well-being, but also obviously to maintain my health and fitness. And just probably in the last 6 months, I've now added a dip in the ocean. And I don't say ocean swim, because I'm certainly not goggles on and out the back doing the swimming. I'm just literally in and under and, spending some time. And then I get out and I will often do some sort of mindfulness, whether it's a meditation, I take a journal with me, I might do a brain dump. But spending that time just for myself outside of the house, within my own energy, really sets me up for, my day. I do my best to work between the school bells if I can. I like to drop my girls off to school and pick them up. But as we know, different seasons in business also call us to work different hours as well. So very much for me is about setting my morning up right. But for other people, that might be doing more of an evening routine and winding down at the end of the day and, really signing off their day and working their way down to rest at night. I have no problem sleeping whatsoever. So again, that's what I do, but that could look very different to someone else.
And what time in the morning do you get up? to start all that process?
I'm a 5 a.m. riser, and I find this quite humorous in that before we moved to the Gold Coast and I lived in Victoria, you really struggled to get me out of bed at 7 a.m. I was a self-declared definite not a morning person at all. I was a night owl, and that has really shifted. And it was a conscious decision to make that shift when I moved to the Gold Coast. It's a little bit easier, and the sun gets up a fair bit earlier up here as well. But what I know is that what I have on in my days, I need that time for myself in the morning. And because I am someone that likes to do that without the energy of other people, that's better off done when I'm outside of the house, just after I train. And then, sitting on the beach is a beautiful spot to do that.
And I'm hearing, I guess the word that's jumping out for me a lot in hearing you speak is awareness, is being very aware of, what works for you, what doesn't, what season you're in. How can people who feel like they're in that sort of burnt out stage at the moment, or the really hectic, busy, chaotic stage, how can they get a part of that awareness starting in their life? What are some of the things that they could do?
For me, it is about review and reflection. I talk about this in pretty much anything that I deliver inside my membership or even with my clients, is just being able to step out of the busyness of life and really have a look at what are the things that I'm not happy with? Where do I feel my most frustration? Where do I feel like maybe my energy is draining? What are the things that I can do right now just to make the smallest of changes to give myself whatever it is that I need, that I know that is missing. And so for me, it always comes back to, if you're in the real busy, if you're in the doing, you have to stop to be able to find clarity in what is it that I'm not actually aligning with in my life and my business.
I know even just last week, I had a day where I had some things that I wanted to get done in the day, but energetically, I just didn't feel energetically like that was the thing for me to be doing that day. And it was interesting because I was checking in with myself, as I always do with my clients, about going, are you distracting yourself from something that's maybe a little bit challenging, or are you actually listening to yourself? It's a very different, distraction and actually tuning into yourself are very different things. But working through my own sort of stuff on that day, I was like, no, actually, this is what I need to be doing right now. And I have to say, it was it was a day full of absolute growth and insights and productivity in a way that if I had kept pushing through the to-do list, I would have got to the end of the day, I could feel it. I would have been exhausted. I would have been very energetically tired, not just wanting to go to sleep. Probably frustrated because I could feel the pull and I didn't listen to myself. So how do you, when you're working with clients and you can hear that they're in that struggle of going, but I have to do my to-do list, but they also feel the pull of knowing that they need to spend that time. What can they do in those struggle moments to, I guess, step out of the frustration and move into a little bit of that freedom?
The first thing that I would say to them is to be genuinely curious as to what's actually going on. And so, as you just said, you kept checking in with yourself and asking yourself the questions, which a lot of people don't do because they perhaps have never done it before. So being able to just be genuinely curious to ask themselves, am I doing something? Am I avoiding? Am I procrastinating because this is stretchy, or it's outside of my comfort zone, or it's something new? And, it could be something like that. Or is it that right now, this is not actually where I want to apply my energy to? And it's being, without judgment, without guilt, just genuine curiosity. Where do I feel like I'm really being pulled, as you did on that day? And then I think that they can get the answers, because there are certainly times where we just have patterns of behavior that crop up, particularly if it's around perhaps not feeling confident, or we're feeling perhaps not worthy, or, we are doubting ourselves. then we can fall into that procrastination and we'll do every other task that's required before we do the thing that really should have been done in the first place. But sometimes it is just, about I actually am far better off to do something that's going to honor myself in this moment. And then what was on the list will probably be far more achievable in a faster time when the energy's there to do that thing.
So what are you distracted by?
Oh, that's a good question. Do you know something that I really picked up last week? Every now and again, I will go to a shopping center and work because I know my human design environments is markets. So if I'm doing any creative work, I actually operate really well in spaces where people are moving around. I'll often have headphones on, music playing. I'm not engaging with anyone, but it just really supports me to get a lot of work done. What I've realized with that is just going and with my laptop, I'm very focused because I have one screen. But when I'm sitting at my desk and I've got all of my things, I run two screens. And it is very easy for me to get distracted with different screens open. And, something might just catch my attention. I'll be like, oh, I'll pop over there and I'll do that. And then I'm like, hang on, no, you're back over here doing something else. So that's definitely one thing. And I believe, social media, of course, I think is a huge one for a lot of people, being like it's there all the time. But I have put in strategies in place to remove distractions. So my phone goes on work mode at 9 a.m. every morning automatically, which means that I get no notifications. I don't have any bubbles if I happen to, no red bubbles. If I pick up my phone, my computer's linked to my phone, so it goes on work mode as well. So I get no notifications, and that really does help. Little things like I have Newsfeed Eradicator on Facebook. So if I open Facebook up, because I run groups on Facebook, if I open Facebook up on my computer, there is no newsfeed. So I can't get pulled into scrolling. So little things like that, I find just help remove distractions. But I would suggest, like a lot of people, it would certainly be social media. And I do use social media as my outlet. I'm not a TV person. But yes, certainly the double screens can be a distraction. Whilst it's great for, getting things done as well, it certainly can be a distraction for me. And then, of course, working from home. There's always a dishwasher to unpack. There's always a load of washing to hang out. There's always something to be done. And I feel like people discount how challenging it is to actually work from home. I feel like years ago, it was the big goal to be a young mum and stay home with your children and all of those things. And for those that work from home and do it well and are successful, I think, major kudos, because it's not an easy thing to work from home.
No, you're right, because it is. You sort of don't have that boundary between work and home, and a quick duck into the office at night time and things like that can end in 3 hours of work. Absolutely. Yeah, it's I think having awareness, like you've said, and what we've talked about is really important about going. And you even mentioned human design, realizing where you do your productive work and where you can focus. And what I keep hearing from you, Kel, is that awareness and alignment are very closely related, that you need to check in with yourself and have those, ask yourself sometimes, I guess, what could be challenging questions. But I guess there's a lot of people that would probably find that a bit tricky to even know the questions to ask themselves. So in Bold Aligned Business, which we've mentioned a couple of times, and I'll obviously include the link to that, what can people expect to be able to tap into from you in like a membership like that? Building awareness, building good habits. Can you just tell us a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's probably an extension of all of the things that we've already spoken about. Being that I am someone that wants to ask questions to make sure that the answers that are coming are the ones that are true and correct for each of my members. So there is always a lot of review and reflection. There is always, the opportunity for them to share what they're being challenged by. But we look at the whole scale. We look at daily habits, we look at mindset, we also look at specific tasks in our business that we identify that, you know what, this is actually not something that I'm good at or I don't enjoy. How would I be able to automate, systemize, outsource, all of those things? But a lot of it is them having contact with me and industry experts to be able to really identify where are they out of alignment, what are they doing that they shouldn't be doing or don't want to do, and what are the changes that they can make to really create that business that is in alignment with the season of life that they're in.
Beautiful. Kel, what excites you? And what excites you the most about being in business? What do you love about it? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
I do believe it is that we get to do it on our own terms. That if it is that we are taking that time to really look at what it is we are creating, we do get to create whatever we choose. We get to work from where we want. We get to work the hours we want with the people that we want, be it clients or, our business families, like our masterminds and the people that we can connect with. And you just wouldn't get that if you were working for someone else. So it is about, I guess the sky's the limit when it is that you're the one in control and building what it is that you want from your own business.
My gosh, there's so many times throughout my business career, it's been 18 years for myself too, and that I realize, I go, actually, do you know what? This is your business. I think we get in, as you say, with so much passion and excitement for the work that we do. We do everything, and we're doing all the many things we need to do. And sometimes it's just taking that big, deep breath and going, you know what, this is your ship that you're driving here and you're in control. And if you don't love what you're doing right now, then you can change it. But if it feels out of alignment, then it's your choice to get it back into alignment. And that's the freedom of having your own business rather than feeling stuck. So I just want to acknowledge you for the work that you're doing with business owners. I know you make a huge difference to people, and it's people like you that I always see in the background that do so much work for others that no one would have any idea about. But yet every day you turn up and you go through the struggles, you help people with their own struggles and make such a huge ripple effect for people. So Kel, thanks so much for coming on here and sharing your beautiful insights. I feel like I could talk to you for so much longer and ask you all those questions. But if you want to know more about Kel, obviously there'll be links in the show notes, but also her Bold Aligned Business membership. I'll have all the links in there. But Kel, thanks for spending your quality time with us today.
Thanks for having me. It's been wonderful.
Thanks, Kel. All right, everyone. Well, you know exactly where to listen. You know where to find this episode, where you listen to all your favorite episodes. Just look for Distracted with Angela Lockwood. Hope you really enjoyed this. If you know of a business owner who might be feeling a little bit stuck at the moment, a little bit stressed maybe, feeling overwhelmed, you know that they're working hard, but things just feel like a little bit too much for them, then please share the episode over with them. That act of thanks and that act of generosity could literally change their lives. So, I hope you really enjoyed this. Until next time, everyone, I'm Angela Lockwood, and thanks so much for joining me here on Distracted.